Time to wake up, America. The Chinese Communist Party is waging an undeclared war against the United States using political warfare techniques. Welcome to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. Few people realize that the CCP has been waging hostilities against the United States for a long time. It has many weapons of unconventional warfare in its arsenal, but one of the most dangerous is political warfare. It is a kind of hybrid warfare that combines diplomacy, propaganda, bribery, infiltration, and other tools to manipulate public opinion in the direction Beijing wants. This is the CCP's way of trying to achieve its goals without resorting to direct military conflict. For China, this approach is much easier, safer, and more effective than using conventional weapons. It is much harder to recognize covert aggression before it is too late. But the good news is that the US is finally starting to wake up and notice Beijing's tricks. Recently, the House Oversight Committee even held a 4-hour hearing devoted entirely to the CCP's political war against America. They were attended by respected experts, retired generals Robert Spalding and Grant Newsham, as well as Peter Mattis, president of the influential Jamestown Foundation. Two of them have already been guests on my China Unscripted podcast, so their expertise is beyond question. These folks shared some very valuable expert observations about China's political warfare. Too bad the representatives of both parties chose not to even listen to them, delving into petty political squabbles. Why would a hearing on the CP threat have an argument about who needs a psychologist? We can argue about Trump's ties to China and Russia, but such petty bickering is definitely not going to lead to anything good. I think collective psychotherapy is needed there. After watching this farce, it makes me want to see a mental health professional myself. Seriously, why did American politicians use such important hearings to accuse each other of corruption schemes and the existence of Nazis in Ukraine? Maybe they'll argue some more about whether a burrito is a sandwich. It seems as if the threat from the CCP doesn't bother them at all. And I am not alone in this opinion. Dear colleagues in the opposition, this is not about Donald Trump at all. The situation is extremely serious. If you want to talk about him again, be my guest, but for once put national security interests above political ambitions. How naive I was to think that parties could set aside differences when it comes to threats from the Chinese Communist Party. Whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, we're all Americans, and the CCP is a danger to our country. But it wasn't just petty political squabbles that undermined the credibility of these hearings, but also some of the witnesses who were invited. For example, why did the Democrats invite Timothy David Snyder to be there? This guy is an expert on Central and Eastern Europe and the Soviet Union, but not on China. Not surprisingly, his testimony was mostly about disinformation about Ukraine with the traditional attacks on Trump and Republicans. Wait a minute, so the CCP is simultaneously convincing Americans that the election is meaningless, yet supporting a particular candidate? That's a clear contradiction. Chaos and discord in the US is only to Beijing's advantage. Besides, America has enough domestic problems: Ukraine, Israel, the crisis on the border, the approaching elections. In fact, these absurd hearings had only proved the Chinese Communist Party right. In the end, nothing was done, only pointless bickering, and American politicians themselves play along with Beijing's propaganda, demonstrating the powerlessness of their own government. Which, of course, is partly true, but there are worse governments. If the congressmen had not been distracted by trivia, they would have heard the valuable comments of the invited experts. But since Congress ignored them, I hope China Uncensored viewers heed their warnings. That's what they were trying to warn America about. As Mattis pointed out, the CCP has no good intentions. Not that this party has any notions of nobility or humanity at all. From its very founding, the desire for total domination and control, not only in China, but around the world, has been embedded in the blood of the Chinese communists. Retired Brigadier General Spalding pointed out that adversaries like China use the power of communications to distort and manipulate the very essence of our society. This is not just about TikTok, but also about fake news videos with fake anchors, deepfake anchors to spread disinformation. Retired Colonel Newsham warns of the same thing. According to him, a key aspect of political warfare is psychological warfare. It changes the way people perceive things and see the world. In turn, this shapes the way we think, speak, and act toward China. For example, the CCP deliberately equates any criticism of it with anti-Asian racism. This idea was echoed at the hearing as well. Anti-Asian racism is rampant in our country. Republican rhetoric and policies have helped normalize it. In March 2020, Donald Trump used the racist phrase Chinese virus for COVID-19 in a tweet. So even just pointing out that the virus came from China or the US is considered unacceptable racism. And yet this is a fact. Even a hint that the spread of the virus may have been facilitated by the CCP's negligence in biosecurity is considered anti-Asian xenophobia. Isn't it time to set up a task force to search for this weapon of mass distraction? Another important caveat from experts: the CCP has managed to convince US defense agencies that China poses no real threat and any problems can be resolved through engagement and mutual understanding. This approach is vividly illustrated by the words of former Assistant Secretary of Defense Joseph Nye: "We need to work with China, not contain it. If we treat China as an enemy, we are guaranteed a future enemy. But if we treat it as a friend, we preserve the chance for a more peaceful future." There are still many politicians saying that we need China's help in fighting climate change, the spread of fentanyl, the DPRK's nuclear program, etc. But let's reflect on this. We're talking about a communist country that threatens its neighbors, commits genocide of minorities, uses rape as torture, persecutes dissidents abroad, steals hundreds of billions of dollars worth of intellectual property every year, causes enormous environmental damage, wages a drug war, supports other authoritarian regimes and terrorists, and commits a host of other crimes. And yet we are told to continue to cooperate. According to some politicians, business leaders, and academics, yes, we should cooperate, but in essence, this is not cooperation, but condemning the CCP's actions. And that is where the success of China's political war against the free world lies. China has achieved what the Soviet Union failed to do. Its Berlin Wall still stands. However, Mattis, Newsham, and Spalding have suggested ways to solve the problem. In Newsham's view, the US should be more active in exposing the CCP and its political warfare. This should be handled by the State Department's Global Engagement Center, which was created to identify and counter foreign propaganda and disinformation. However, as Newsham noted, the center is doing a poor job with respect to China. In contrast, Newsham said, independent media outlets such as China Uncensored do a much better job of exposing CCP atrocities. Seriously, Newsham told Congress that shows like ours do an excellent job of educating the general public about China's evil deeds and the need to do something about it. They are factual, informative programs. They have nearly 2 million subscribers, and the Chinese government hates them. Wow, thank you, Colonel Newsham. It's true, the Chinese authorities hate China Uncensored. The Chinese government has called our channel a disgraceful anti-China trash program. And all of this is made possible solely thanks to you, our viewers. You watch our videos, share them, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching the video to the end. Don't forget to give us a like, subscribe to the channel, and tell your friends about it. Together we can counter the flood of lies and misinformation from the Chinese Communist Party. Stay vigilant, take care of yourself and your loved ones. I will definitely be back with more revelations of the machinations of the Beijing regime. See you next time.